Alexander the Great is one of history's most famous conquerors, and by the age of 30, he had built an empire that spanned from Greece to Egypt and all the way to India. But what made him so successful? What were the key factors that helped this young king from Macedonia defeat powerful empires and change the course of history? Today, we're diving into the secrets behind Alexander's unmatched success. Alexander's success didn't just come from his military genius. It was a combination of his strategic mind, relentless ambition, charisma, and the careful education he received as a young man. His empire was not only built on the battlefield, but also through diplomacy, governance, and his ability to inspire loyalty in his soldiers and subjects alike. Let's explore these pillars of his greatness. Alexander was no ordinary king. From a young age, he was educated by the great philosopher Aristotle. This education gave him an unparalleled understanding of philosophy, science, politics, and ethics, all of which shaped his leadership style. Aristotle's teachings instilled in Alexander a belief in his divine destiny to unite the world, which became the foundation of his ambition. One of Alexander's greatest assets was his military innovation. He inherited and perfected the Macedonian phalanx, a battle formation that allowed his armies to fight with discipline and unity. Armed with long spears called sarissas, his troops could overwhelm larger armies with precision and coordination. But Alexander didn't just rely on tactics. He was always in the thick of the action, leading from the front and showing incredible bravery, which earned him the respect and loyalty of his men. Alexander's tactical genius was showcased in many battles, but perhaps most famously at the Battle of Issus and the Battle of Gaugamela, where he faced overwhelming odds against the Persian Empire. By carefully analyzing the terrain, understanding his enemy's weaknesses, and employing unconventional tactics, Alexander was able to defeat forces far larger than his own. His ability to adapt in real time set him apart from other leaders of his time. However, Alexander's success wasn't just about military might. It was also about diplomacy. After conquering Persia, he didn't simply impose Greek culture. He adopted elements of the Persian culture, even wearing their traditional attire. This fusion of cultures helped solidify his rule and allowed him to maintain control over a diverse empire. He respected local customs, which made him a more appealing ruler to the people he conquered. Alexander also had an unmatched ability to inspire his troops. They followed him not only out of duty, but because they believed in his vision. He shared in their hardships, marching with them and leading every battle from the front lines. This created a deep bond between him and his men. His charisma made his soldiers feel as though they were part of something much larger than themselves, an empire destined for glory. Alexander's legacy wasn't just written on the battlefield, it was also in the cities he built. The most famous, of course, being Alexandria in Egypt, which became a hub of culture, trade, and knowledge. These cities were strategically placed to strengthen trade routes and cultural exchange, helping to integrate his empire and create a lasting legacy. His ability to think beyond warfare, to focus on long-term governance and cultural blending, was key to his lasting success. But perhaps what drove Alexander more than anything was his unrelenting ambition. He was never satisfied with his victories. He wanted to push further and expand beyond the known world. This hunger for greatness drove him into the far reaches of Asia, where he encountered new cultures, ideas, and challenges. His ambition knew no bounds, and that made him a legend. Alexander the Great's success was a combination of intellectual brilliance, military innovation, leadership, diplomacy, and an insatiable drive for greatness. His empire may have fragmented after his death, but his legacy has endured for over 2,000 years. If you enjoyed learning about the secrets behind Alexander's success and want to dive deeper into the lives of other historical figures, make sure to subscribe and follow along on this journey through history. One of the key factors that set Alexander the Great apart from other leaders was his education. Under one of history's greatest philosophers, Aristotle. Imagine being a young prince and having your tutor be the very person who shaped Western philosophy. This wasn't just an education in the basics of politics or warfare. Alexander's education went far beyond that. Aristotle taught Alexander not just strategy and leadership, but how to think deeply about life, human nature, and the world. He introduced him to philosophy, ethics, science, and literature, instilling in Alexander a sense of curiosity and intellectual rigor. Alexander wasn't just a warrior, he was a thinker. He was trained to ask questions, to seek knowledge, and to always look beyond what was immediately in front of him. This education played a crucial role in shaping Alexander's worldview. He didn't see his conquests as mere military campaigns. He saw them as a way to spread culture, knowledge, and Greek ideals across the world. His desire to establish cities like Alexandria wasn't just about power. It was about creating centers of learning, trade, and cultural exchange. Aristotle also imparted a deep sense of ethics and personal responsibility to Alexander. While he was known for ambition and military genius, Alexander also had a clear vision of how a leader should behave. He understood that leadership wasn't just about ruling with an iron fist, it was about understanding human nature and guiding people toward a better future. This philosophical foundation, this quest for knowledge, and the ability to reflect on the deeper meaning of his actions is what made Alexander more than just a conqueror. It made him a visionary leader. So when you look at Alexander's achievements, remember this. Behind every battle, every conquest, was a mind that was shaped by philosophy, logic, and the pursuit of wisdom. Alexander's education under Aristotle wasn't just about the art of war. It was about mastering the art of life. If you're interested in learning more about how this education shaped the course of Alexander's life and how it played into his vision for a united world, make sure to like and follow for more insights into the minds of history's greatest leaders. Stay cool, stay stoic, and let's continue exploring the genius of Alexander the Great together. Alexander the Great's tactical brilliance is one of the main reasons why he is still studied in military academies around the world today. His ability to analyze, adapt, and outmaneuver his enemies, even when the odds were stacked against him, turned impossible situations into legendary victories. Let's look at a few key battles that showcase just how brilliant Alexander's strategies were. Take the Battle of Issus in 333 BCE, where Alexander faced the massive forces of the Persian king Darius III. The Persians greatly outnumbered Alexander's army, but sheer numbers didn't intimidate him. He understood the importance of the terrain. Instead of meeting Darius in the open field, Alexander chose to position his forces in a narrow coastal plain where the Persians couldn't take full advantage of their numbers. This forced Darius to engage in a more confined space, neutralizing his numerical superiority. Alexander then led a direct cavalry charge aimed right at Darius, forcing the Persian king to flee, leaving his army in disarray. Alexander had turned a potential disaster into a decisive victory with one key tactical decision. Then there was the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BCE, considered one of his greatest triumphs. Here, Alexander faced an even larger Persian army, one that dwarfed his forces by over 100,000 men. The Persian king had even had the battlefield cleared and smoothed to make way for his war chariots, thinking he could run Alexander's troops down. But Alexander didn't just fight the battle head-on. He used a brilliant tactic called the oblique order, where parts of his army advanced at an angle, drawing the Persian forces into a trap. As the Persians extended their lines to meet Alexander's forces, gaps opened in their ranks. Seeing this, Alexander charged straight into the heart of the Persian line, creating chaos and once again forcing Darius to flee. What seemed like an overwhelming disadvantage became a brilliant victory, thanks to Alexander's foresight and an ability to exploit weaknesses. But it wasn't just large-scale battles where Alexander showed his genius. In siege warfare, he was equally innovative. Take the siege of Tyre in 332 BCE Dogs. Tyre was an island fortress considered impregnable because of its strong walls and its position in the Mediterranean Sea. Most generals would have walked away, but not Alexander. He ordered the construction of a massive causeway, essentially building a bridge from the mainland to the island. His engineers built towers, battering rams and catapults on this causeway, slowly but surely approaching Tyre. After 7 months, he broke through the city's defenses. His perseverance and willingness to use unconventional methods allowed him to achieve what was thought to be impossible. Alexander's brilliance wasn't just in the strategies he employed, but in the way he adapted to each situation. He never relied on a single tactic. He analyzed every battlefield, every enemy, and used what was available to him to outsmart his opponents. Whether he was facing massive armies, entrenched fortresses, or unexpected terrain, Alexander always found a way to emerge victorious. These examples show that Alexander didn't just win through sheer force. He won because he was a master of strategy and innovation. His ability to think several steps ahead of his enemies and adapt in the heat of battle is what made him one of the greatest military minds in history. One of Alexander the Great's most remarkable qualities wasn't just his military genius. It was his charisma and ability to inspire unwavering loyalty among his soldiers. Leading an army is about more than just strategy. It's about motivating your troops to follow you into battle, often against overwhelming odds, and Alexander was a master at this. His men didn't just respect him, they adored him. Let's start with one of the key reasons for this loyalty. Alexander led by example. Unlike many kings and commanders of his time who stayed far behind the front lines, Alexander was always in the thick of the battle. He fought alongside his men, leading charges from the front on horseback, and never asked his soldiers to do anything he wasn't willing to do himself. This built an incredible bond between Alexander and his troops. They didn't see him as a distant ruler giving orders from a safe distance. They saw him as one of them, a warrior king willing to risk his life alongside his soldiers. For example, at the Battle of Granicus, Alexander was the first to cross the river and personally led the charge against the Persian forces. He was almost killed in the process, but his bravery electrified his men and spurred them on to victory. His personal courage inspired them, showing that he was not just their king, but their comrade in arms. But it wasn't just bravery that inspired loyalty. It was the way Alexander treated his soldiers. He understood that a great leader had to build a personal connection with his men. He didn't rule with fear or intimidation. Instead, he regularly addressed his troops, giving speeches that made them feel they were part of something bigger than themselves. He reminded them of their shared victories, their shared hardships, and the glory that awaited them. He painted a picture of an empire that they were building together, one that would be remembered for centuries. Alexander's charisma extended beyond his words. He knew how to show gratitude to his soldiers. After major victories, he didn't just hoard the spoils of war for himself or his generals. He distributed them among his men, ensuring that they shared in the rewards of their hard-fought battles. By doing this, Alexander fostered a sense of loyalty and brotherhood within his army. His soldiers didn't just fight for their king, they fought for each other, for their collective glory, and for the empire they were building together. Another key moment in his leadership came after the Battle of Hydaspes in India. After years of constant campaigning, his men were exhausted and homesick. When they refused to march any further, Alexander didn't force them to continue. Instead, he gave a heartfelt speech acknowledging their sacrifices and reminding them of the greatness they had achieved. While they ultimately decided to turn back, this moment showcased his understanding of human limits and his ability to connect with his men on an emotional level. They weren't just soldiers, they were part of a shared mission. Alexander knew when to push and when to give them rest. Finally, Alexander's charisma wasn't just confined to his own men. He was able to inspire loyalty even among those he conquered. After defeating the Persian king Darius III, instead of treating the Persians as enemies, Alexander embraced their culture. He adopted some Persian customs and even integrated Persian soldiers into his army. By showing respect to the cultures he conquered, he was able to win over many of his former enemies and build a diverse, unified empire. In the end, it was Alexander's ability to blend bravery, compassion, and vision that made his soldiers so loyal to him. They didn't just follow him because he was their commander, they followed him because they believed in his leadership and in the vision of greatness he promised. Alexander's charisma and ability to inspire loyalty is one of the most compelling aspects of his legacy. Alexander the Great conquered the ancient world with ambition, strategy, and unwavering focus. If you want to learn more about the minds that shaped history, hit that like button and follow for more. Stay cool, stay stoic, and join me as we continue this journey through the life of Alexander and other legends of the past. They